Yo, Alex, what are you doing? Where are you?
Brooklyn, this is Zoom University. It's an endless summer.
No. Dude, the semester's all online, but Temple sports are still happening. We have to talk about the all-conference football schedule and sports getting moved to the spring.
Wow. You're right. I wonder how Temple football is handling this pandemic. Looks like the endless summer is about to end. Well, it seems like we've got a lot to talk about. But first, let's take a timeout. Hello and welcome back to Temple Timeout, our first episode of the year, and we're bringing you a new anchor duo. Alongside Brooklyn Vaughan, I'm Alex Coll.
The pandemic is still in effect, which means we won't be in the studio, but that's not stopping us from bringing you the very latest on all things Temple sports.
And there's plenty to talk about today. Let's get started with taking a look at how fall sports at Temple will be panning out for the rest of the season. The only two sports that still remain in the fall are football and cross country. Football is set to kick off on October 10th, but cross country is still waiting to hear what will happen with their competition. Men's and women's soccer, volleyball, and field hockey seasons have all been moved to the spring. These teams are all waiting for an announcement of when they can start their seasons.
And let's go ahead now and take a look at the updated football schedule for this season. All 8 games are being played in conference, no bye weeks. Starting off with the Owls heading to Annapolis to take on Navy for their first game on October 10th. Their first game in the Link is slated for October 17th when USF comes to town. Followed by 2 games on the road, Memphis and Tulane. The Owls are back at home taking on SMU during week 5, and then they head to UCF to take on the Knights. They wrap up their season at home with East Carolina and Cincinnati. So now that this season is nearly underway, practice has officially resumed back to normal. We bring in sports desk reporter Donovan Hugel to talk a little bit more about the Owls. What's going on, Donnie?
It's everything's going good. It's good to be back. Good to be back for you too and Brian. And we might not be in studio, but talking about Temple football is always a good time. So.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it. Donnie, how will the new structured conference-only schedule affect Temple's chances at an AAC championship this year?
It'll greatly affect their chances at a championship, something that they haven't achieved since Matt Rule left. UConn left. They were a bottom feeder in the conference, so now there's no divisions. So they have to go up against, pretty much the best teams in the conference in order to have a shot at winning the championship. And then those bottom feeders have also improved. So the conference is even better than it has been in the past. And Temple, they lost a few players, and while they are still good in a few areas, they didn't improve greatly.
Great. Hey, Donnie. I know Temple got a ranked win against conference opponent Memphis last year, but they also haven't beat UCF since 2016. In your opinion, which games do you think are the toughest for Temple this season?
Temple has 4 tough games, and that's half their schedule this year. They're going up against UCF and Cincinnati, who are both ranked in the top 15 this year. And then you have Memphis and SMU as well. UCF is returning 8 starters from both offense and defense from last year. Dylan Gabriel was one of the best true freshman quarterbacks in the country last year, and he will be one of the better quarterbacks in the country this year. Cincinnati has a ton of experience. They lost two straight seasons. They've lost in the conference championship game. They have 9 starters on defense back, plus their super versatile linebacker, and their D-line runs 8 deep. Desmond Ridder, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country. The biggest question for them, though, is their offensive line. They were the most penalized team in the country, but that should probably improve. Memphis has quarterback Brady White and wide receiver DeMonte Coxey back from last year. Their head coach Mike Norvell left for Florida State, but Ryan Silverfield was promoted, so not much should change there. One of their biggest losses is Kenneth Gainwell, who was statistically one of the best running backs in the country last year, over 2,000 yards from scrimmage, top 5 nationally. But he opted out due to COVID-19 concerns, so that's a big loss. And then the defense, also, they returned 7 starters and were 21st in the country in tackles for loss last year. But they were also 5th in the country in giving up plays of 30 yards or more. And then lastly, SMU, they have 7 starters back, including quarterback Shane Buechele. Their entire O-line as well. They averaged 41.8 points per game last year, which was 7th in the country. And then defense is pretty much an afterthought on this team. They're kind of just run and gun, score a lot. and they have a lot of starters. So Temple, of those 4 games, that's probably the most winnable for Temple, but still should be a tough one, definitely.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Donnie, just like you had mentioned, though, those 4 games are tough, but then you have those mid-tier teams in conference, teams like Houston, Navy, Tulsa, that Temple's going to have to go up against. Let's talk a little bit about the offense. What do you expect from them? What do they need to do to deliver and come out on top in those games, too?
Yeah, for the first time in the last couple of years, it's always been defense. That's been the talking point coming into the season. This year, it's the offense. They have depth at quarterback. Anthony Russo's back for his 3rd straight year as a starter. 3rd different offense that he's running in with a 3rd different coach, but 3rd year at starting QB still makes a difference. And then he has 2 good backups in Trad Beatty, who's also in his 3rd year as a backup, and then Real Mitchell, the transfer from Iowa State, who's dual threat, kind of like that Todd Centeio, a little bit bigger. Their starting wide receivers, Brandon Mack, Randall Jones, Jaden Blue, Jose Barbone, all experienced. They might run some 5 wide receiver sets this year with Jordan Smith as that 5th one, which could be very exciting. And then their running backs, Ray Davis will obviously be the starter after a big freshman year last year. But then Onassis Neely, Tavon Woolley, Kyle Dobbins are all good backups just in case he gets hurt or anything. And then the line, it's Matt Hennessy's gone and all that stuff. But Vincent Picozzi, back and healthy from injury. And then Isaac Mora, Adam Klein, Victor Stoffel, all good players. And then CJ Perez coming from Rod Carey's old school Northern Illinois as a transfer. So yeah, this offense will probably have to carry this team. They're probably going to have to put up some more points. But, Russo loves throwing to Brandon Mack and Jaden Blue, so they can definitely put him up.
Right. And like you said, Temple's known for always having a bruising defense. You also said earlier that we're deep at cornerback, but defensive-wise, expectations-wise, what are we thinking for this year?
I mean, defense will always be good for Temple. That Temple tough, that single-digit thing. It's always going to be an emphasis, but, the days of Sean Bradley, Chappelle, Russell, the linebacker core, they're gone. There's a lot of huge playmakers are gone, and they'll have to make a jump coming into this year. There's some players returning, but like I just said, they're going to have to make some plays. Most defensive depth is at cornerback. Christian Braswell, Linwood Crump, Ty Mason, Freddie Johnson have all played in the past, especially Braswell and Crump. And then Amir Tyler played more last year at safety. Other notable defensive returners, Isaiah Graham Mobley at linebacker. He'll have that core down. And then Dan Archibong at defensive tackle. Quincy Roche was a huge loss to Miami. That definitely will not help. So the defense will, it'll be fine. But when you're going up against teams like USF, SMU, Memphis, Cincinnati, it's going to be a tough time. So yeah, the offense, more expectations on the offense, less on the defense, I'll say.
Yeah, right. Some big shoes to fill. Donnie, it was great having you as always. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
See you later, Donnie. After an off-season that saw a multitude of adjustments due to COVID-19, there's also been some changes in the Owls quarterback room. With the departure of Todd Centeio to Colorado State and the arrival of Iowa State transfer quarterback Real Mitchell, the Owls have a deep yet talented group of arms. This includes current starter Anthony Russo and redshirt sophomore Trad Beatty. This past week, I took an in-depth look at what's going on in the Owls quarterback room.
Here, the thing is I'm like a kid at Christmas with a lot of gifts. There's a lot of special talent in my room from right now. When you look at the room top to bottom, I'm very, very happy with the room.
Second-year quarterback coach Craig Harmon has no doubts about this year's quarterback room. With current incumbent Anthony Russo heading into his final year as the starter, 2 live arms sit in waiting.
And a lot of times you hear with the quarterback position, every throw is an interview. I just want to put myself in a position to go out there and be able to compete.
It's a leap of faith, and I'm a very faithful type of guy, and I knew that I've worked really hard up until the point I'm at.
Real Mitchell is a 6-foot dual threat quarterback who appeared in 5 games for Iowa State last season, scoring 2 touchdowns as the team's number 2 quarterback. Another dual threat quarterback, 6'5" redshirt sophomore Trad Beatty, has seen action in 2 games with the Owls. Redshirt senior quarterback Anthony Russo has solidified himself as the starter week 1. Coach Harmon says Russo has a full understanding of the offense.
Because he has really grasped this offense. You can bring him into a meeting room and he can get on the board and he can lay it out to you. He can lay it out. He can teach you now. It's not just me teaching him. He can teach it back to me now.
Head coach Rod Carey says although Russo has the job, competition can only make the team better. From Temple Update Sports Desk, I'm Alex Coll.
And that'll do it for our first episode of Temple Timeout. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at @TU_sportsdesk to stay in the loop on everything Temple sports.
For Alex Coll and the entire Temple Timeout crew, I'm Brooklyn Vaughan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.